collected during the recording of the meeting will be retained in accordance with the County Council's data retention policy. And the recording of the meeting may also be added to the Council's website. Can I ask all of those in attendance to mute their microphones, announce their name before speaking, and can I remind members that the use of the instant messaging facility is for advising if a member wishes to speak or draw urgent attention. It's not to hold a conversation or put forward a point of view. Can I also emphasise that I'm planning to use the instant messaging to call speakers in, so don't please use the raise the hand function. Please use the instant messenger if you want to speak. The IM is strictly not for use by members of the public. Any member of the public that uses the IM inappropriately may be removed from the meeting. For the benefit of members of the public who've dialed in, can I explain that the message chat facility that may be referred to during the meeting is to facilitate the chair and democratic services so that members can indicate when they wish to speak. So welcome everyone to this remote Swale Joint Transportation Board meeting, especially visiting members and members of the public. I'd like to advise you that the following officers are due to be in attendance. Seafront and Engineering Manager Mike Knowles, Engineer Brett O'Connell, Leisure and Technical Services Manager Jay Jenkins, Planner Aaron Wilkinson, all from Swale Borough Council, and from Kent County Council, Swale District Manager Alan Blackburn, Jamie Watson, Senior Programme Manager, and additionally from Swale Borough Council, Democratic Services Officers Kelly Mackenzie and Billy Attaway. Also in attendance for item 6 is Adrian Berrant, who has been working for Faversham Town Council, and for item 8, which is a presentation, Daniel Rollinson and Stevie Collins from National Highways. If there are any other officers attending, could they make it clear now, please? Okay, thank you everyone. So can I ask if there are any apologies for absence?
Thank you, Chairman. Apologies received from Councillor Paul Stephen, Councillor Eddie Thomas, and his substitute is Councillor Hannah Perking, and County Councillor Andy Booth. Thank you. Okay,
thank you very much. So members, can I ask you to approve the minutes of the last meeting, which was held on Monday the 6th of December, with the following amendment, which doesn't change what we agreed, but I think it makes it clearer. So under minute number 465, which was related to the Faversham Town-wide 20-mile-an-hour trial, the sentence read, Councillor Eddie Thomas proposed to retain the full extent of the 20-mile-an-hour limit as per the trial. And to tie in with that, the resolution be amended to read, resolved that the full extent of the 20-mile-an-hour limit as per the trial be retained. So can I ask you to confirm that you're happy with the minutes of the meeting with that small amendment?
Agreed.
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 Okay, thank you very much, members. So item, excuse me for a second, item number, lost my way. Anyway, we're going to do declarations of interest. So can I ask if there are any declarations of interest? Okay, can I say that I need to make a declaration of non-pecuniary interest in relation to item 6, which is the Faversham Local Cycling and Walking Infrastructure Plan. I've been the chair of the committee of the Town Council that has developed the plan, and I've taken advice from the Swale Monitoring Officer and taken his advice that I shouldn't chair that item, and in fact that I should leave the meeting for that item. So that item will be chaired by the Vice Chair, Councillor Wright. Okay, I now need to confirm to you that there's one person who's registered to speak in the public session. That's Christopher Wright, who's registered to speak for item 6 on the Faversham Local Cycling and Walking Infrastructure Plan. So I propose that the Vice Chair calls him in when we get to that item. We also have a petition that's due to be presented this evening from residents in Sittingbourne, and that's going to be presented by Councillor Winklis of Swale Borough Council. So, Councillor Winklis, would you like to present the petition? I think it relates to Crown Road in Sittingbourne.
Chair, if you might, you've got a couple of messages in the instant messenger.
Thank you, Chair. This is Councillor Winklis. Just checking you can hear me, Chair.
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for letting me speak at this on behalf of the residents of Crown Road, Milton Regis, Sittingbourne. There's been a petition handed in with almost 200 signatures requesting that Crown Road is made one way. The reason for this is it's a chicaned road for parking, and there's no end of standoffs where motorists are getting stuck between the chicaning and basically arguing who is going to reverse to make way. This is causing massive distress to the residents. My suggestion is, if this is progressed for a one-way system, would be to make the traffic coming upwards, as we call it, into Milton High Street from the roundabout at the Chalkwell Road end, because that is automatically the quickest access route in for emergency services if they need to get into Crown Road, Beechwood Avenue or Lammas Drive. Basically, I will just add a bit more to this. I know I've only got 3 minutes, but the resident south of the junction of Beechwood Avenue, residents would still be able to access either going to Beechwood or go up through Milton High Street or turn right down Milton Hill. And residents north, or what we call north of Beechwood Avenue, would still be able to access to get out through Milton High Street or turn right down into Milton Hill. I request that there is a traffic count carried out on the road by KCC, so we know exactly what movements are taking place on average of a 24-hour period. So I urge that this gets progressed further. That's all I've got to say at this stage. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Winklis. So my understanding in terms of petitions is that that it goes forward to the relevant council, which in this case would be Kent County Council, and that we don't have a debate on it. But I have had a request from the other ward councillor, Councillor Davey, to speak. And I was also going to suggest if Councillor Dender, who's the Kent County Council councillor, wanted to speak as well very briefly, I'd be very happy for him to do that. So, Councillor Davey, do you want to speak briefly on this matter?
Thank you, Chair. I concur with Councillor Winklis. This has been mooted for many years now. As he points out, the road is chicaned, and I know there's been some concern over the possibility of speeding vehicles if it is made one way, but they already speed down this road. I've recently put in a report to KCC regarding the missing bollards outside the flats 7 to 21, which is on the near side as you head towards the Stumble roundabout, which means now that traffic doesn't halt at the first chicane, it simply drives over the pavement. I think if it is turned into a one-way, it would allow for more chicanes, more parking for residents. and I appreciate it's a bus route and there would need to be some consultation done on the ability for buses to pass through the chicanes. But it is a long-standing bottleneck which doesn't affect the air quality for residents in the area, particularly heading down towards the Stumble roundabout of a morning where you have the buses queuing up, and the queue often goes all the way up Mill Hill. Anyone who knows the area will know the road well. The buses queue all the way back to the High Street. I think it's a sensible option given that Milton High Street is the one-way route back down towards St Paul's Street, and I'd be much obliged if this is taken forward and given full consideration. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Davey. Councillor Dendor, would you like to come in and comment as well?
Yes, very briefly. Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yep. Yes, I concur with both councillors there. I did go down and meet them down there, and I know this is a long standing issue. It's been tried once before to try and get this on one way. I do concur with them, and I will try my best to see that the studies are properly done. I would add a couple of things, though. It does involve, of course, I recall, well, I don't recall, but I was told that some years ago it was the bus companies that objected to this mostly. But there is a route for the bus companies down the High Street on the other side. However, there would be some road differences have to be done there. So it isn't as simple as just turning it into one way. We'd have to take consideration of the other works that would have to be done. But on the pro side, it would release or would loosen up the traffic at St Paul's around that roundabout, and also across the road in the Chalkwell alley, as I think people call it, that very difficult piece of Chalkwell Road. So yes, I will concur, and I will try my best to make sure that KCC do a proper study on it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Dender. Mr. Blackburn, Alan, can you tell us how KCC would move this forward?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I must admit I didn't quite get at the start whether this was an e-petition or is actually one that's a paper petition, a hard copy petition. I think the routes are slightly differently, but initially we would hand this to our schemes planning delivery team to see if it's something they're already working on, maybe they're already aware of. You say it's a long-standing issue, so it may be something that they've already got a plan for. So I will gladly take the petition and talk to schemes planning delivery team, and they can contact the councils after that.
Okay, thank you very much. My understanding is it is a hard copy petition. Okay, thank you, members. So we're now going to move on to item 5, which is on the Faversham residents parking scheme and permit eligibility. Mr. Knowles, are you going to introduce this for us?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Yes, this report has been brought to the JTB at the request of Swale's parking manager, following the realisation that the current traffic regulation order for the residents parking scheme in Faversham doesn't reflect the historic policies for the issuing of permits within the semi-pedestrianised town centre area. So it's been co-written by myself and the parking manager, and the recommendation that's been made is for the traffic regulation order to be amended to match those policies. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Knowles. Before we move on, can I just kind of clarify a couple of things before I call members in? I mean, what you seem to be proposing as the option, that would involve this issue coming back to the JTB later by the look of it. But if we were to go to option 2, it looks as though we'd be making a kind of decision which would be then unchangeable. We wouldn't be revisiting it. Is that correct?
Yes, basically, thank you, Chairman. The option to change the traffic regulation order would require, as part of the standard procedure, a formal consultation, which we do with every traffic regulation order. So that option 1 would mean if objections were raised, we would return this back to the JTB for consideration. Option 2, as you say, would not require any legal changes to the current traffic regulation order, but it would involve the need for the policy to be amended so that all future permits are issued in accordance with the current order, and as such that decision would not come back to the JTB, as there's no formal consultation process in that. Thank you.
Okay, and could you just clarify how many residents you think might be impacted by this, directly, as opposed to ones who might be affected by option 2? Yes,
I spoke to the parking manager regarding this issue. He couldn't give me an exact number at the time of asking for that information, because he said it would require going through the permits manually and to total them up. But his view was that he would not anticipate it to be a significant number of people that would be affected. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Right, okay, I'm going to open this up to members then. So Councillor Hook and then Councillor Dendor, please.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks to the officer for the paper that's very clear and sets out the 2 options quite properly. I'm not only county councillor for the division, but also town council, ward councillor for the ward where this is, and my preference is for option 2. And I say that because it is cheaper. There's going to be no legal costs of making a new order, no burden of consultation, no complication of further challenges, and it gives the residents who are affected, i.e. the residents who live in Court Street, more freedom than they would otherwise have, freedom to buy a permit. It seems to me the arguments against are twofold, perfectly respectable, but they are that it's unfair because these residents don't live in the parking controlled zone, but they live right slap bang to it, and if they didn't park here, they'd have to go probably to public car parks anyway. These are often buildings have been converted to flats with no parking. And actually, if we look at the table that appears on page 9-10 of our papers, there's actually a number of streets where people are not in the parking zone but can buy a permit. And so I think this section of Court Street, which has been said is a very small number of residents, ought to be included too, and that's certainly the preference, I think, of the people living in that part of the town centre. So my request, please, is for option 2.
Okay, so Councillor Dendor.
Thank you. It may be an answer just then, but paragraph 3.8 says, in practice, this could allow permits to be purchased by those residents living It didn't say, when it says this could, did it mean option 1 or option 2? I wasn't clear that which option paragraph 3.8 was referring to. Thank you, Anthony. Yeah, okay. Option 2. Yeah, I'm fine with that. Thank you very much.
Okay, Mike Knowles, we're definitely talking about option 2 when we're looking at paragraph 3.8.
Yes, Chair, thank you very much. That is correct. That would be for option 2.
Yeah. Okay, so I've got Councillor Perkin wanting to come in as well.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I just really wanted to support Councillor Hook in what he said around option 2. I think it. I helped the resident that raised this before Christmas, and I think that it just gives a very small amount of residents a bit more freedom. So I'm very supportive of option 2.
Okay, have we got anyone else wanting to come in? No, not at the moment. So I think where we are at the moment, I will speak, because I think as a councillor in a neighbouring ward, I would certainly lean towards option 1, which because I'd be concerned about the displacement of people into Zone B, which covers parts of my ward. So I think my residents would be disadvantaged if we went for option 2. So can I suggest that if I get a seconder, I propose option 1. Obviously, if that's lost, I think that means that option 2 would be the one that we move forward. Is anyone prepared to second option 1 as a proposal? So Councillor Gould. So I think we will need to take a roll call vote for this then. So the proposal is that we go with option 1. Can we go through the list? I've actually got this not in alphabetical order, so it's an order of councils. So Councillor Bonney on option 1. Councillor Bonney?
I'm not sure Councillor Bonney's in attendance.
Okay.
I think she's
Councillor
got
Clark.
COVID.
Okay. Councillor Clark.
Agreed.
Councillor Gould.
Option 1. 4.
Councillor Jays.
4 option 1.
Councillor Stephen. Oh, he's not in attendance, is he? Councillor Perkins substituting for Councillor Thomas.
Against.
Councillor Baldock.
I do like not being first. Against.
Councillor Beard.
Against.
Councillor Booth is not in attendance. Councillor Dendor.
Against.
Councillor Hook.
Against.
Councillor Lehman.
Against.
Councillor Wright.
Against.
Councillor Fassenfeld.
Against.
Councillor MacDonald.
I'd have to abstain because I don't know the road that well.
Okay, thank you, Councillor MacDonald. Councillor Tutt. Councillor Tutt. Councillor Tutt. If you can't come in, do you want to right, put it in on the IM. Okay, I think that is clearly against number 1. So Democratic Services, can we accept that we're in favour of 2, or do we need to have a fresh vote on that?
Some of us might have been against both.
Okay,
Yeah.
Okay, so
yeah, do the vote. Do the vote.
so we should have a vote on option 2. Okay, so option 2, Councillor Clark.
Against option 2.
Against. Okay. Councillor Gould.
Against option 2.
Councillor Jays.
4.
Right, Councillor Saunders, me against. Councillor Perkin.
4.
Councillor Baldock.
4.
Councillor Beard.
Against.
Councillor Dendor.
4.
Councillor Hook.
4.
Councillor Lehman.
4.
Councillor Wright.
4.
Councillor Fassenfeld.
4 option 2.
Councillor MacDonald.
Abstain.
And Councillor Tutt. Four. So 1, 2, So I make that 9 votes to 5. Have I got that right? Democratic Services for that proposal.
9 for, 4 against and 1 abstention.
Okay, fine. Okay, so option 2 is the one that we prefer and that we've voted for. Mike.
Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you for that, members. So we're now moving on to item 6.
Chair,
yeah.
sorry, could I just interrupt a second? Is it possible that we might move item 8 up as we have a speaker there? It may be that we can listen to them and come back to the others later.
Seconded.
Right. Okay. I am open to that. Because I know members are interested in that. Okay. Let's do that then. So we'll move to item 8, and then we'll go back to item 6 and 7. So have we got our speakers ready for item 8?
Yep, hi there. Do you want me to put my camera on or?
Yes, and I don't know if you're using a presentation, if you want to start loading that.
Yeah. I'll just load this up. Please do let me know if you can, if you're able to see.
Okay, that's appearing now. So
Yep.
I'll hand over to you.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. My name is Daniel Rollinson. I'm the National Highways Project Manager for the M2 Junction 5 scheme, and I'm joined by Stevie Collins, who is our principal contractor, Graham Construction. He is our project manager for them. I'm just going to, thanks, Stevie. I'm just going to take you through a small update on where we've been since we started works in September, and I'm going to hand over to Stevie, and Stevie will give you a bigger picture of the scheme as a whole and the phasing that will take us through to the end of the scheme. So in terms of our current progress, so we started on site in September of last year after we had our planning orders confirmed in June, I think it was. We completed the phase 1 of our vegetation clearance. So that was the clearing of vegetation ready to start our works. We've been progressing well with our statutory undertaker diversion. So we've got a number of diversions from Southern Water, UKPN and BT Openreach. So we've been progressing with them. We've also now completed 4 out of our 5 archaeological digs on the scheme. So they've been signed off by the county archaeologist. We've just got one more to do, which will be completed in the coming months. When we started works in September, we ran a virtual public information event. So we have which is still live now. So it is available for anybody to visit, and will be updated throughout the scheme. So essentially, it's a virtual hall, much like if you went to a physical consultation. It's a virtual hall. It's got boards with information. It's got a video for that shows the fly through of what the scheme will look like when it's complete. So that'll be up throughout the entirety of the scheme and updated as we go. We also ran face-to-face exhibitions with what we call our mobile exhibition van in October. So we went to 4 different locations, one in Maidstone, we went to Stockbury, Sittingbourne, and also Farthing Corner Services in over 4 days, and spoke to a lot of local residents in person. And as I stated, we started works as planned in September. This is just a couple of photos here of what we've been doing. So the one on the left is one of our diversions of our telecoms. The one on the right is one of our archaeological digs that I alluded to earlier. This one is another one of our archaeological digs, and then the one in the middle is one of our water main diversions, or part of it. and the one on the far right is when we went to Maidstone Tesco's with our mobile exhibition van, as I spoke about. These are the works on Maidstone Road, so we've got a temporary compound there at the moment. The main compound is also here, just a little bit further up the hill, adjacent to the A249. So that's we're just doing the preparation works for that. This is the area where the main compound will be for the next sort of 2.5 years. So that's just some images of us preparing the ground there. This was the part of we've got 2 Southern water diversions. We have a 300mm water main, and then we also have a 27-inch water main. So this is part of the diversion for the 300mm, with the 27-inch to follow later on in the spring. The one at the left there is we've had a number of overnight closures, various places on the scheme, on the A249, Maidstone Road as well. This is just some of the works that we did there for the crossings. And the ones on the left is some stripping that we did of topsoil ready for our archaeological dig, and also the diversion in front of the water mains. We've had a number of consultations, sort of events and conversations with various parishes. We have regular meetings with Stockbury Parish Council, so we do that on a monthly basis, where we go to their village hall and meet with their councillors. That's been very positive. We've been looking at where we can add added value to their local parish, and obviously also trying to mitigate any concerns that they may have. Similar sort of situation with Borden Parish Council. They've got ongoing sort of concerns about the use of Chestnut Street and Mason Road as diversion route. I think that's a long-standing concern. So we've been helping where we can with that, and we've been in regular contact with their councillors as well regarding that. And we have a dedicated stakeholder and communications officer who regularly contacts the parish councillors as well as other key stakeholders that we have, and trying to give them advanced information where possible. But obviously we also publish all our information on our scheme webpage as well, sort of road closures and just regular updates. We'll just if I just I'm happy to take questions here before Stevie takes us through the look ahead, or would you like me to do questions at the end? Is there a preference?
I think it would be easier if we took questions at the end. If you do both presentations, that would be good.
Yeah. Okay. If I just hand over to Stevie then. Stevie, you want to just give me a nudge when you want to move on to the slide?
Problem. Good evening, everybody. My name's Stevie Collins. I am the project manager for Graham Construction, delivering M2 Junction 5 improvements. I'll just take you through a number of slides in relation to the scheme, to give everyone in the room a bit of an overview. To give everyone a bit of an overview as to where we are at this moment in time, and the main phases of the scheme going forward. The slide that Daniel currently has on the screen is where we started works, which most of the people will see in the vicinity is the clearance of the vegetation and the hedgerows in the footprint of the project. That started in September and has been continuing right up until last week, and prior just to the bird nesting season. So we've cleared 95% of all the vegetation on the scheme. We're engaged with UKPN, Southern Water, National Highways, NERTS, and BT Openreach to undertake a number of quite significant diversions that are involved in the project, working right through until the mid part of this year to complete those diversions. So they'll continue for part of this year. And then the areas there highlighted in green, the environmental mitigation works, we've a lot of activities done to date. Early planting that we've engaged with on the scheme, hedgerow translocation. We're currently planning on relocating a number of roadside nature reserves, relocating them to another aspect of the scheme after that road gets stopped up. And then, like Daniel alluded to, the site clearance and some installation of bat boxes. So that's most of the work really. It'll take us up to April. You can jump over to the next slide, Dan, please. So the work's going forward for this year. So a lot of the works that you'll see. So we're still not out on the road network. We do have a number of road closures that have happened recently and will continue to facilitate utility diversions on the scheme. But most of our work now for the next number of months will really take place offline. So behind road restraint systems and the cones, with our workforce entering and exiting from the A249 and the Maidstone Link Road. So the works that you can see there that's really taken place in the early part of this year will be the new link road that we're constructing. Again, most of the offline works will be taking place from Maidstone Road to Old Street. That's the area you can see in the yellow. We're working on a number of structures there, which are highlighted in number 6 and 5. These will be the new southbound diverge bridge and the new northbound retaining wall. These will again be offline behind road restraint systems, and they'll be working directly beneath the existing M2 junction, or the M2 viaduct, which is quite a difficult aspect that's been added into this project as well. The areas in blue and green, number 3 and number 4, will be the upgrade and the extension and the enlargement of the existing roundabout, and then the new Old Street Link Road. And that will take us through to April. If Dan flicks over. Again, continuing with the theme of the offline works, which will go right through until November there. It'll go right through until March, April of the following year. We'll be constructing these areas, and these are the main works that you'll see us trying to deliver over the next year and a half, will be all our offline works. So the area in red will be the new realigned A249 carriageway, as well as the northbound off-slip. The area in blue will be the new dedicated northbound on-slip, and the realigned A249, and the area in yellow will be the southbound off-slip. So the main phases of our programme and our scheme is to really work offline for as long as we can, get the traffic then onto these areas highlighted yellow, blue and red, which will take the traffic, the general public, to Stockbury roundabout and away from our works, which will allow us then to work in the centre of the carriageway and build the new overbridges. If Dan can flick over to the next one. Once the traffic's moved onto these slip roads and the new dedicated on and offs, these will then see us building the 2 structures, which will be directly on the roundabout, which will carry the A249 traffic over the new Stockbury roundabout, and then us work on the area in green. And then when we flick the slide over to the next page, you will see us work with this area in yellow. So for the best part of 23 and part of 24, that will be us working then in the centre of the carriageway with the traffic then to our outside, which will be a flip of what we're doing this year. And that's that.
And that's us, yep. If you're happy to take questions.
Okay, thank you, Daniel and Stevie. There's a number of questions. Members, can I remind you, if you could, I'll take all the questions that come in, but if you could put your questions in the chat rather than raising your hand, it's easier to see people in order. So I've got Councillor Dendor, Councillor Hunt, Councillor MacDonald, and I think there's also Councillor Wright as well. Oh, and Councillor Fassenfeld. So I think Councillor Wright was first, and then I'll take Councillor Hunt and Councillor Dendor, please. Councillor Wright.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I just wanted to, I mean, obviously it is what it is, but I just would like to say that this project still does not deal with the issue of Stockbury losing its bus stop and its bus services, both on the A249 at present. It does not deal with crossing of the A249 safely from Stockbury to Stockbury, the other side of the valley. The consultation and keeping up to date with what's going on, it was promised that you would be talking to Newington Parish Council and Hartlett Parish Council. Both are rat runs from the M2 A249. Newington, whether it be below the roundabout and via Wormdale into Ball Lane or Hartlett from the top of Bimbury Lane and the Detling Aerodrome site all the way down the Lower Hartlett Road, or from Farthing Corner, in actually dealing with when you do have roadworks that stop traffic flowing freely, will be using those back routes. And to my knowledge, being a member of Hartlett Parish Council, nobody's actually come and spoken to Hartlett Parish Council. Now, all of this was raised during the consultation. It was promised during the consultation, let alone the issue over the bus stop and the bus services for Stockbury. And it seems it was certainly within the literature where you said that this project will enhance and deliver for all drivers that have to use Junction 5. Well, it certainly doesn't deliver for people who live in Stockbury and want to get access, or even pedestrians, cyclists, horse users, and other tourists that want to use countryside lanes to access across the A249 that has now become a barrier. Would you like to answer some of those questions, why you haven't done what you said you would do, and why this project completely ignores services to Stockbury?
Yeah, I'm
Thank
happy.
you.
I'm
Okay,
happy to,
sorry,
sorry.
just before you come in, Daniel, I think if I could take a couple of other questions and then you could answer them in groups, I think that might be helpful. So I've got Councillor Hunt, and then I'll call Councillor Dender, and then I know there's other people waiting. So Councillor Hunt.
Yeah, thanks, Chair, and thanks, Daniel, for that presentation. It was good to just have that quick run through and hear what's happening. The matter that I've got to raise was the simple question is, can you do more on communications over this? And just to explain that, it was along the lines of what Councillor Wright has just said there. I think that it's good to hear that you've been speaking to Borden and Stockbury parishes, but I think there's maybe needs to be a bit more recognition that the impact on many others across the area, other parish councils and areas that haven't got a parish council, probably don't really feel that we're getting enough information when things are happening, especially with the closures. It's good that it's updated on the website. We get local press that do announce it, but there doesn't seem to be any further communications that we're getting through of when these are going to be happening. I regularly meet with local businesses, and obviously it's having a massive impact on them, especially transport companies. They've signed up. What I was telling everybody is to make sure you go online and sign up for the email. We can give your email in and get updates. I've done that. I've not received any updates whatsoever at all. And companies are telling me that they've also signed up and have not received any updates. So something needs to be done from that side of things. Last weekend or the weekend before, when we had the storm, there was the closure was meant to be happening. We had on social media members of the public saying that the closure had been cancelled. Nobody had heard anything. I spoke to Ellen Dennison at Graham, who was great. It was a Sunday afternoon. She came straight back to me and said that no, there was no closure. They were continuing as normal. When she then spoke to National Highway, she'd then been given other information that she hadn't been updated either. So I think there does seem to be lots of things happening where probably internal communications maybe aren't quite working, but also then getting the details out externally as well. Especially with us as members, we get a lot of information that we can help to get out there with the local communities, but maybe just a bit more could be done. That would be good.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Hunt. So I'll take Councillor Dender, and then if Daniel could come back in for a first time. and answer some of these questions. So, Councillor Dendor.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, I would echo both Councillor Wright and Councillor Hunt's comments, but looking a bit further along towards my own patch, Kemsley, Iwade, and further down the A249, where I continually get people coming to me moaning about the disruption. So I won't go any further into that. I think Councillor Wright and Councillor Hunt have made a big thing. My one is a bit longer term. I just wonder if Daniel can maybe answer a simple question. The current building, the current flyover, or what it will be a flyover, is that targeting the housing that is currently known? In other words, all the Grampian condition type of housing developments, or does it allow for any other expansion after that? So in other words, does it cater for any other developments that may come up until 2024 when it's suspected to be completed? Of course, in 2024 is when most of the Grampian conditions are released, and the current developments will start building again, or get to the point of building again. But I'm just wondering if it caters for any further expansion between now and then. So I wonder if Daniel can maybe answer that. Thank you.
Okay, do you want to pick up those questions now, Daniel?
Yes, sure. I'll just make a note so I don't miss anything. So I'll try and run through these best I can. If I miss anything, please feel free to come back in. So I think the first point was around the bus route. So obviously I'm aware that the bus stops were taken out of commission before we came along, because of the having to stop and then pull out onto a 70-mile-an-hour road. So I'm aware that the bus routes were stopped up on the A249. So as part of when our final design is complete, we will be putting bus stops back in on the O Street Link Road. So we're still in discussions with Arriva about what that bus route will look like. There's still some changes that need to be made to make the bus route suitable, but that is something that we're working on with Kent County Council and with Arriva. But the plan at the moment is to have some new bus stops on the O Street Link Road. I completely understand that that involves crossing the A249 for the main hub of Stockbury, and again I'm aware that it was an existing issue, the crossing of the A249. We are looking at further opportunities to help with the crossing. So we're looking at additional funding outside of our project scope for the improvements of public right of ways. So we're looking at one that improves the public right of way on the main hub side. That also includes the upgrade of the footbridge over the M2, which will bring that up to grade and also make it suitable for all non-motorised users. But we're also looking at potentially putting in a footbridge across the A249 to link the two sides of Stockbury. Now that is still at an early stage of its sort of concept and feasibility, if you like, but that is something we're looking at, because we are aware of the existing problems around the crossing of the A249. The parish council consultations. See, I'm not aware of the conversations that were had at earlier. The conversations we had at earlier consultations at earlier stages of the project, but we're more than happy to speak to anybody and everybody that needs consultation from us. Any parish councils, we're completely aware that our list of parish councils and key stakeholders is growing, and it's grown tenfold since we started on site in September, and it continues to grow. So if there are parish councils that we're not engaging with, we'd love to engage with you. We'd love to work with you wherever we can to try and mitigate any effects that we may have and any concerns that you have. Please do get in touch and we'll happily come have a meeting with you. We'll have monthly meetings, whatever it may be. I'm like I said, I'm not aware of previous conversations, but we're happy to take those on. We do work with like I said, with Stockbury and Borden to help with their issues. We for example, we work with the police to look at speed enforcement. We look at signage. We look at all sorts of things that we can do, and added measures we can put in place to help whilst we're here on site. So if there's things that we can do for the parish councils we're not in contact with to help, then please do get in touch, and we'll happily come and have those conversations with you. You know, I recognise the long-standing issue of rat running around the various country lanes through the various villages, and obviously we're confident that that's one of the benefits that the scheme will deliver, and one of the issues that it addresses is when the A249 becomes free flowing, then there'll be no need for the rat running. So we're confident that that'll be something that the scheme addresses in the long term. You know, I know that obviously whilst we're here and we're building the scheme, that it's inevitable that there is going to be some impact, and I understand that. You know, and as Stevie alluded to earlier, we're doing everything we can to mitigate that by working behind barriers, trying to delay the takeover of the roads, and the associated traffic management with that. When we do put out our full-time traffic management on the A249, we are keeping 2 lanes running at all times, apart from when we have to obviously close the road entirely for safety reasons. And the part of the reason we're doing that is to mitigate that impact that it has on the wider area. But yeah, I mean, we recognise that there's always additional things that we can do, and we're happy to have conversations with anybody. And if they've got ideas of stuff we can do to help, but we'll entertain any ideas. The points that were made on the comms. So, like I alluded to, it's a constantly evolving situation where we're constantly contacting more and more people as we go along. We do have a list of what we call our key stakeholders that we do try to reach out to ahead of time, and also we try to give them information before it gets published online, because I recognise that there can be a lag between when a decision is made, such as cancelling a weekend closure, and then that being posted online, and then that message then getting extended out. So we do have a list of key people that we do email. So that includes emergency services, it includes Stockbury Parish Council, it includes Borden Parish Council, it includes the nature reserve at the Isle of Sheppey, and other people like that. If anybody who wants added to that, whether it's Councillor Hunt or whoever it may be, we're happy to add you to that, and then that will enable us to contact you as soon as any decisions are made. In terms of the weekend closure that got cancelled for the weather, I'm aware of the conversation that Ellen, our stakeholder officer, had with Councillor Hunt, and it was just simply a case of we made a decision to cancel the closure quite late on, because I'm sure, as you can understand, it wasn't a decision taken lightly, and we had to monitor the situation with the weather. And then it just so happens that Ellen had that conversation before we made that decision to cancel it. As soon as we cancelled it, I told Ellen, and then she went on and updated Councillor Hunt afterwards. But yeah, I mean, I'll look into reasons why updates aren't going out to people who sign up to it. I'll take that one away. I can't answer right now why that's happening, but we completely understand that the councillors and other various people are key people in the region, and we'll happily contact you directly as soon as decisions like that are made, and also give you heads up of any closures that we've got planned. Just last week, I went and did a presentation for Gordon Henderson and quite a few local businesses in the region. So we're always trying to, like I said, we're always trying to expand our communication database and reach out to people and give people that opportunity to also to reach out to us. Like I said, it's a constantly evolving situation. I'm not going to sit here and say we know that we're doing absolutely everything, but we are doing what we can do, and we constantly change and alter what we're doing and build that database, and that's all we can do. Unfortunately, there's not one set place where I can just go and get every single person's contact details that needs it. So yeah, it's just a case of updating that. So please do send people our way. Please do contact us directly, and we'll make sure that you are the sort of the top of the list when it comes to contacting people. And then moving on to the last point that was made about the flyover. So the scheme is modelled based on all the existing developments, as you alluded to, but it's also future-proofed in a way that I suppose it predicts a future growth, and it's future-proof for, I think it's 30 years. It could be 50 years. I'm not too sure which one, but it's future-proof for the expected growth of the area. Now, obviously, if there's new developments that come along that aren't in that model, they're obviously not accounted for. But what does happen is when a new development in the region that can affect the scheme comes around, it's part of their requirement that they have to model their impact on our scheme. So there's one, I'm not sure exactly where, I think it's south of Stockbury Roundabout. There's a housing development there, and we've just released our traffic model to them so they can feed in their growth into our traffic model, so we can see what that looks like, and see what the effect that can have. But yeah, that's constantly evolving. But like I said, the scheme itself is future-proof for, it's either 30 or 50 years. I can't remember exactly which one, and beyond that. So yeah, so I suppose it does cater for the expected growth and any further expansions.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm happy to
Okay,
take any more
thanks,
questions.
Daniel. I've got 3 more questions lined up, and if there is time, I think Councillor Wright would like to come back in. So, okay, we've got one. If we could take 4, make Councillor Davey the last question, please. So I've got Councillor Fassenfeld, Councillor MacDonald, Councillor Beard, and Councillor Davies. Councillor Fassenfeld, can you come in, please?
Thank you, Chair. Daniel, can I first say congratulations on your communication as far as Borden Parish is concerned. Ellen Dennison is brilliant. She's very good, and she's always open to emails, telephone calls. So I'd urge colleagues to get on and use her. She's very good. Next question, or first question, is the Old Street Maidstone Road link. I think you're probably aware that there's a section in the middle that isn't part of your scheme, that is extremely narrow. In fact, it's so narrow that 2 buses can't pass, and certainly 2 heavy vehicles can't pass. I know that you're aware of this, and you said you were looking into it. So my question is, when will we hear? When will the locals hear? And can you give us a timescale on that, please? That's the first question. Second question is, can you use your influence on KCC Highways and the police to do more work on Maidstone Road speeding traffic? There's been a couple of accidents down there, you're probably aware, and the police have done some work. And I know you have put repeater 30-mile-an-hour signs down there, which is excellent. But anything more that you can do to try and slow down these idiots that still go along there at 60 mile an hour would be much appreciated from Borden. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Fassenfeld. So, Councillor MacDonald, please.
Yes, Peter MacDonald. I did have a Class 1 licence and a considerable experience of commercial vehicles. So I noticed on your plan just now that the junction, the road from travelling eastwards on the M2 and then coming down to go northbound on the A249, there's a very substandard bend at the bottom. Originally, the plan was that they were going to do a slip road from the M2 to head north in front of the golf course on just a simple slip road onto the 249. Presumably that's been dropped, but it's a very substandard bend on the bottom of the link road from the M2 to the roundabout. That's one of them. The other one was, I also suggested, again from experience, that with the considerable number of commercial vehicles from the Audi Southeast Distribution Centre at Queenborough, the Morrison's Southeast Distribution Centre at Sittingbourne, and of course Sheerness Docks, a considerable amount of vehicles. And I made the suggestion that there ought to be a slip road from if you're going north on the 249 from Sittingbourne and Sheppey, and just simply going round towards Canterbury and Dover. But I think that was dropped. You know, clearly, I think there's some people that do the designs that have never been in a heavy goods vehicle, let alone drive one. So I think I'm not criticising you. You have to deliver whatever the powers that be say. But the initial one is the appalling junction coming down from the M2 from the London direction or Medway direction, travelling down and joining the A249 trunk road and travelling north towards Sheppey. That last bend is absolutely appalling.
Okay, thank you, Councillor MacDonald. So, Councillor Beard.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Mine have largely been asked and answered, but all I would stress is when we're talking about keeping in contact with people and consultation, although it may seem a long way away, the majority of people using that road come from Sheppey, or majority of people from Sheppey use that road. You mentioned about the mobile consultation van that went round. I don't think we did receive one after asking for one. But I mean, there was a consultation at Maidstone Tesco's. It would have been good to have a couple of sessions on the island.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Beard. And so, Councillor Davey, and then if I could ask Daniel to come back in again.
Thank you, Chair. As a visiting member, I'd like to thank you for allowing me to speak. It would be, could Daniel forward on all the contact details that we would need to get in touch in order that we can keep up to date and ask them any questions? Thank you, Chair.
Okay, so could you pick up those questions, please, Daniel?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first one about Old Street, absolutely correct. There's a section of Old Street that is not of the correct grade or the correct width to be used as a strategic diversion. So you're absolutely right. So we're still in talks about with that one. We are still going through our statutory process for purchasing our permanent land. So it's something that we don't plan on doing until that's completed, which is in the next couple of weeks, and then we'll look at the at what we need to do there in terms of any additional land purchase in order to widen the road. We are working with Kent County Council around that. I had a meeting just this morning with Kent County Council specifically about Old Street. I've got no timescales at this moment. That's primarily down to the fact that it's not solely an activity we have control of. There is a private landowner that requires consultation with and essentially agreement for purchasing land. So I can't promise timescales when it's not wholly in our control, unfortunately. But rest assured, it is something we're looking at, and we're looking at a couple of different avenues in terms of widening that if possible. The speeding traffic on Mason Road, again, completely understand that that's an existing problem, and I believe it has been. It's a long-standing issue, and our traffic safety officer, he's had quite a significant liaison with the police, and through that liaison, they have come down and done speed enforcement. Unfortunately, we're not an enforcement agency, so it's not something that we can do personally, but we are in contact with the police, and they came out and did some, and that was well publicised. They put it out on their own social medias around the amount of people that they caught and then the subsequent sanctions that were put in place. We continue to have that, and we will look at if they can come back and do more sort of intermittently. We will look at that. We'll also ourselves look at what more we can do. Like I said, we're not an enforcement agency, so we are slightly limited there, and we put the 30-mile-an-hour speed limit in, and we'll see if we'll continue to look at any other measures we can put in place to actually physically slow people down, whether it be sort of speed awareness signs or things like that. And we are also talking to Kent County Council about it as well. It is a Kent County Council road, so any long-term measures would have to be from Kent County Council rather than National Highways. But whilst we're here, rest assured we will continue to look at that. Safety is always the forefront of what we do. It's everything that we do. It's one of the main reasons that the scheme has been built is for safety reasons and the amount of accidents that happen at this junction. So yeah, we will continue to look at that because I do recognise it is an issue. I struggle to follow a little bit about the slip roads, the exact slip roads, but just to say that we have put in a couple of as part of the main design, there are a couple of new slip roads that are in the place, and also and happy for Stevie to come in if needed. But the link roads that are in the scheme will be of the correct standard, and they will be as per the DMRB standards. I mean, I don't know if there's anything you want to add on that one, Stevie, specifically about the slip roads.
I think Councillor McDonald was highlighting the fact that the quite tight radius that the traffic leave the eastbound off slip of the M2 to get on to the northbound traffic. It mightn't have been quite clear to you, Councillor McDonald, and I'm quite happy to share a drawing. There is a dedicated left turn and a dedicated merge that the traffic will come down that slip road, and they will have, I think it's about 400 or 500 meters of a slip lane that they can merge onto the A249 northbound, which you may not have been able to see from the plans that we put up, but there is a dedicated slip for them to merge onto the northbound traffic in that location.
Cheers, Stevie. Thank you. Also, I appreciate the compliment for Ellen. She's very good at her job. She's our dedicated stakeholder manager, and I'll pass those comments back. She does work incredibly hard at expanding our database. And just on that, I don't know if it's possible to forward our scheme email address on with the minutes possibly of the meeting, so that anybody who needs direct consultation from us and direct messaging, they can drop us an email, and we'll make sure that we add you to our key stakeholder list. I don't know if that's possible to do that.
Yeah, I'm sure we can arrange that.
Thank you.
Members.
Thank you. And then just finally, that we were quite limited with the time and the areas that we could go to with our mobile exhibition van. We do have only one van for the entire country that uses that, so it is in high demand. We will look at bringing it back in again later along in the scheme. However, we're happy to come and have if there's a space we can rent, or there's somewhere we can come to onto the Isle of Sheppey and hold an engagement event. We're more than happy to do that, whether it be on a weekend or a midweek, whatever it may be. We can bring all the materials and everything that we need. We don't need the van. We're happy to hold any kind of consultation, happy to take any direction on the best place to hold this, the best time, the best date, and we're happy to do that and field questions. We like I said, we recognise we're going to be here for the next 2.5 years, and we want to do whatever we can to help people whilst we're here. Any additional measures we can put in place, anything we can do to mitigate our impact, or anything really. So yeah, happy to take any suggestions on that one.
Okay, thank you, Daniel. We've still got a couple of bulky items to deal with, so I think we'll need to wind this up in a moment. But that's all right, Vice Chair. You did want to come back in. Could you do that quickly, and then we can move on?
Yeah, I should do it very, very quickly. I know Daniel has only sort of just come into the role, or I think he has. But can I just say that the parish councils have asked to be kept informed, both Hartlett, Newington, and I believe even at one of the other JTBs, it was Iwade and others. Just how many times do we have to be put on a list to be actually contacted and kept informed? Certainly, when I've been to consultation, I've asked for it 2 times, and I know the chairman of the parish councils asked for it also. So at the end of the day, the communication is not very good. You need to get your act together. In terms of, I'm pleased that you're looking at a crossing for Stockbury Valley. It does need to be for horses, cyclists, pedestrians, at the very minimum. It's okay for cars and to drive around, yeah, okay, it's a slight diversion already, but you know that's bearable. But certainly for pedestrians and cyclists and horses, it needs to be certainly to that standard. And obviously the bus service is something that well, hopefully you will be reinstating the stops, because if there are no stops, there certainly won't be any service. And as I say, in your literature, when you were promoting the scheme, it said that it benefited everybody, and quite clearly at the moment it does. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Wright. That's a good summary of, I think, of some of the concerns that people have got. So hopefully you can take those away, Daniel and Stevie. Thank you. Well, can I ask, before we move on, just ask members to note the presentation. Are you happy to do that?
Noted.
Great. Thank you very much. Okay. And Daniel, Stevie, thanks very much for coming along this evening and giving us feedback. Obviously, the more you can communicate with us, the better, and I'm sure we will want to invite you back to another JTB meeting soon. Okay, we need to now move back then to what was item 6. This is a part 2 item, and it's a report for recommendation to Swale's Cabinet and also Kent County Council's Cabinet. Because I declared an interest, I'm going to leave the meeting now and hand over to Councillor Wright for this item. So over to you, John.
Yeah, thank you, Julian, and apologies for being a little bit late. The technology didn't want to let me in earlier on, but I had to turn everything off and restart. Now, agenda item 6.
Chair.
Just to go through what I plan to do. I should first of all ask Aaron to introduce the report, and then ask Adrian Berent to start the presentation. I will then invite, after the presentation, Christopher Wright, the local resident, to speak on the item for 3 minutes. I will then ask members to whether they have any questions and issues that they wish to raise. And then at the end of the discussion, I'll seek a proposer and seconder for the recommendations that there are, and there are 3. We'll ask committee members to state their name and vote individually or take on block, depending on how the discussion goes. So can I ask then for Aaron to introduce this report? Thank you.
Chairman.
Yes.
Before we go on, I think Councillor Gould would like to say something.
Just to say that.
Yes. By the way, Kelly, I haven't. Don't get all the hands up. So please do butt in if somebody does raise a hand. Okay. But it would be useful if people put things in the comment board. Okay. Yeah. Please go ahead.
Just to say that following Councillor Saunders' lead, I also was involved in the meetings that led up to the development of the VLT whip. So I therefore need to probably also declare an interest and bow out at this point.
Okay. Can I ask then, are there any others that have an interest to declare? Otherwise, I shall go on to the presentation and ask Aaron to introduce the report.
Chairman.
No, I said, yep. Who's that?
Thanks, Councillor White. It's Councillor Baldock. These are not pecuniary interests. They don't have to leave a meeting, and they can contribute to the conversation. So I don't know if they've been advised contrary to that, but their input would still be welcome.
well, it's obviously up to each individual member to make that decision, obviously with advice. Okay, having said that, Aaron, would you like to introduce the report, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair. This report outlines the contents of the Faversham Local Cycling and Walking Infrastructure Plan, the LCWIP, and sets out how it will be used by Swale Borough Council and Kent County Council in their decision making. An LCWIP identifies priority investment in new infrastructure to support a greater number of people making journeys on foot or by cycling. The Faversham LCWIP has identified infrastructure interventions over short, medium and long-term periods that meet the transport and movement objectives for Faversham. Having an LCWIP will enable Faversham Town Council, Swale Borough Council and Kent County Council to apply for funding that becomes available under the government's cycling and walking investment strategy, as well as any other relevant funding streams. It will form an important part of the evidence base for Swale's transport strategy, local plan infrastructure delivery plan, and the policies within the local plan review itself, as well as for KCC highways strategies and plans. It will also be used as an evidence base for planning applications when officers are negotiating with developers on the layouts of their schemes and for Section 106 discussions. This will ensure that they fit into the overall cycling and walking network for Faversham and that necessary infrastructure is funded and provided for. A report on the LCWIP was taken to Faversham Town Council on the 7th of February, where it was approved, and this included agreement on a list of prioritised interventions, which can be found in section 8.2 of the LCWIP, on the understanding that they will be regularly reviewed and subject to change. So it's hoped that this LCWIP can be used as an exemplar of joint working with Swales Town and Parish Councils, and that other LCWIPs can be prepared in the ambition towards increasing active travel rates, reducing congestion and pollution, and improving air quality and health. So the recommendations are for you to note the contents of the document, agree that the LCWIP is used as part of the evidence base in Swale Borough Council and Kent County Council decisions, especially in KCC highways strategies and plans, KCC and SVC planning applications and their associated Section 106 agreements, and to inform the SVC local plan review. And finally, agree that the LCWIP is used by both Swale Borough Council and Kent County Council to assist in applying for funding for active and sustainable travel initiatives. So that's my introduction. I'll pass over to Adrian Berent, who is one of the consultants heavily involved in the preparation of the LCWIP, and he's going to do a presentation on the key elements of it. Thank you.
So, thank you, Aaron, and thank you, Chairman. I'd like to share my screen if I can, and it looks like I can. I've just got 3 or 4 slides which I'd like to take members through. First is just to say that Faversham and Swale and KCC have been working closely together on this project, and we've been following the Department for Transport's recommended process for developing an LCWIP, which is basically to, as you'd expect for any project, to define the original scope, to do some local and national evidence gathering, then to think about what the possible networks might be for both walking and cycling. I think for Faversham it's particularly important to consider the walking aspects of this LCWIP. Then to go through a process of thinking about the prioritisation, which improvements, which interventions can help most. We've done that through locally within Faversham, and then to think about how those could be implemented. I think it's worth just thinking just thinking a little bit about what the context of this LCWIP is for Faversham. It's been really a follow-up to the 20-mile-an-hour project that making Faversham a 20-mile-an-hour town, and one of the key things we're looking for is to help compliance with 20 miles an hour. A lot of the interventions we've looked at will help with that. It's also important that that if a town or a borough wants to get funding for active travel from the Department for Transport, it will almost certainly need to have an LC whip, and we've linked that. We've linked the proposals in here to a bid for a substantial amount of money from the DFT, which we understand still has not yet been decided upon, but I'm quietly hopeful that we will get that funding. We've also linked it to a potential for Faversham to be a mini Holland pilot, which I can speak more about if anybody would be interested, and also linking it into future projects, linking the local parishes into the town, and also more widely into an urban route between Sittingbourne and Faversham, and out to Canterbury and to Whitstable. So we actually build a proper network of cycling, a proper cycling network in the area. In thinking about what interventions to prioritise, there's always a discussion about, do you do lots of small things or do you do one or two large interventions? And we've tried to draw the balance there. Do we need to focus on specific things? Do we put in lots of crossings everywhere? Do we think about whether actually we should just concentrate on making sure all the tactile pavements are there and dropped curbs and so on to make it easier for people who are wheeling and less able to cross town? And then also to make sure that any interventions we think about actually benefit lots of the parts of town, not just one or two areas. And bearing that in mind, so these are just examples of things which are on the list. Some higher up lists and some lower. There's a cross-town walking route being planned using a lot of existing infrastructure, but with better crossings of some of the more major roads. A possible iconic entrance to Faversham at the Mall, a much improved crossing of Forbes Road, which is not great for pedestrians to get across, and lots of enhancements around Priory Row. So there's a whole package of measures there. In total, I can't remember exactly how many we had, but it's 60 or 70 interventions which we've identified, and we expect that list to grow over time. And we have tried to prioritise them into those items, those interventions which have already been designed and potential funding has been identified from local sources, whether that's Faversham Town Council or KCC or developer funding. In yellow, these are the items which I referred to would be covered by funding from the DFT from its active travel fund. And those total about £1 million. If that funding comes through, then those are the schemes which could be implemented. In your papers, you will see there's also a list of amber priorities, which are still high priority, but they're going to take longer. Either there's further design detail for the design needed, or we need to identify the funding sources. And then there's some red items marked red, which are much longer term projects where further work will be required and often are quite expensive. So I'm happy to take any questions or listen into the rest of the discussion as you wish, Chairman.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. Before we take questions, I have Mr. Wright, who is a guest who wished to speak for 3 minutes. So you have 3 minutes to speak, Mr. Wright, before members take questions. So are you ready, Mr. Wright?
I am, Councillor Wright. Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. I take it you can hear me?
Yes, and your
Good.
time starts now.
I'd like to say that as a resident, I walk and cycle every day in Faversham, usually between an hour and 2 hours. And my experience of the town is that it's cut into pieces by railway lines and by the A2 and by the M2 in a way that most towns are not, which the severance does affect the way people can move around, and it's inherited some 1960s highway engineering habits, which include large curb radii that encourage people to move in their cars quite quickly around corners. And I welcome the local cycling and walking infrastructure plan because it'll help people to move around the town more easily and in ways that are more friendly towards the environment. Can I also say that as a traffic researcher, I won't tell you for how long, I'm conscious of the need to reduce vehicle mileage by a considerable margin for 3 reasons. First, to accommodate the population growth that's going to occur over the next 20 years, which will accompany housing development. Secondly, to deliver the carbon reductions that we need for combating climate change. And thirdly, perhaps less obviously, to prepare for driverless cars, which within the lifetime of the local plan could have the effect of increasing the demand for road travel by a margin that no one can yet foresee. Just let me say that again. We don't actually know very much about what traffic flows generally will look like in 20 or 30 years' time. So I see the local cycling and walking infrastructure plan as an important first step in raising public awareness of the need for change and influencing the way we get about. It will be a star feature in the forthcoming visit in April of the Institution of Highways and Transportation delegates, who, following a visit by the President last September, will be interested to see how we're going about the challenge. So thank you for your time.
Right, thank you, Mr. Wright, for that. I don't have anybody who's indicated, but I do have Councillor Tutt, who has put something in the chat. Oh, I think must have put some more in. I'll have to go back and read it out for those that can't see the chat. The proposal seeks to confirm the myth of the Faversham boundary, whilst 26% is in Bourton and 9% in Selling. The maps are quite frankly appalling, and you cannot read or see many of the keys. There is little interaction with the villages. It ignores the current KCC review of buses, which would contribute. The Dutch system would be great if we are starting again. The consultation I attended was poorly researched, with many lines drawn on a map. It completely ignored the millions spent on Brandley Corner to be pedestrian and cycle friendly. Unfortunately, locals haven't seen much evidence of use except by Councillor Gould. Many of the figures in the tables are different in the text. There was a suggestion that to connect the villages would be to allow cycles onto pavements, and this would be the solution. There were just 7 people included in the meeting. Councillor Whiting, I have you next as indicating to speak. So, Councillor Whiting.
Sorry, Chair. I'm having difficulty with the audio. My only comment, I think it's important that we include studies like this within the transport evidence that goes forward to creating and formulating a good local plan. It's just a shame for me that other bits of evidence, such as the transport assessment, haven't been made available to the JTB to discuss before decisions are taken about their importance as part of that evidence base. And I really don't understand why all of the available evidence should not form part of the JTB discussion. To not have those other assessments within the JTB's remit means that our elected Kent County councillors, and I include all parties in that, don't have the opportunity to discuss some really important issues. So while I say I welcome the inclusion of this particular piece of work into the overall evidence database for the local plan. I do regret sincerely the lack and the omission of other evidence and the omission of some of that evidence to the JTB to discuss. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Whiting. Could I ask then Aaron or Adrian just to comment on Councillor Tutts and Councillor Whiting's questions, and then I've got Mike Baldock that has indicated to speak after that. Thank you.
I can comment on some of what Councillor Tutts has mentioned. That this is specifically about the Faversham Town Council border, except for it includes part of Orr parish. It doesn't go any further than that. I believe.
Aaron, do you want to say anything else at all?
Hi there. I should say that I'm covering this item due to an officer absence, so I'm afraid I don't know the detail of the LC whip, and I'm sorry that I can't add anything further to Councillor Tutt's questions. I do apologise. But if there is anything that you want us to take away for further discussion, then we're obviously happy to do that.
Okay, I just quickly seen in the chat that Councillor Tutt says yes, it does. 26% in Bourton and 9% in Selling. But I think you will need to.
I'm sure Councillor Tutt knows better than me, so I apologise. We'll go and check that out.
If you're putting information forward to a local plan and an inspectorate, obviously it has to be 100% correct and validated. So I'll leave that to you to do. Now I think I've got Councillor Baldock next.
No, I put my hand down. I don't think there's anything worthy of carrying on, and we've got a lot on the agenda, Chair.
Kelly, do I have any other speakers at all? Oh, and Mr. Hook.
Just a brief point, John. Just on this point about the taking in of the villages, my recollection is that a year or so ago, when LC was first talked about, it was definitely said to be a plan for Faversham Town plus the Swale East division, and part of the point is not just making it easier to walk and cycle in the town of Faversham, but also in the villages, and mostly between the town and the villages. So I don't feel surprised or ambushed if it does encompass some of the villages. And I think as it develops further, the plan will be to take that further. But Adrian might be able to confirm. And I think Richard, if he's still on the call, be able to confirm that that's probably his understanding too.
I am still on the call, but I'm not able to confirm that. Sorry.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I haven't got any further hands indicating that they wish to speak. I would tend to agree that it is useful to have as much information that goes forward to a local plan and information to an inspector, particularly when it comes to officers trying to get money for critical infrastructure from developers. So I'd agree with what Councillor Whiting has said. But
what if that never
I
happened under
haven't
your
really
control,
heard
then?
any. Sorry, Mr. Baldock.
Yeah, why did that never happen under the previous administration then? You know, loads of things we asked to be brought to the JTB were never brought to the JTB. Why do you expect it to be different now? Just a question.
Having been a chairman of JTB prior to these years in another existence, I can't remember the opposition coming and asking me very much to be put on the agenda.
Did you not table it yourself when you were with them?
That is a factual. Mind you, I don't think you were probably a member at that time, but certainly it was my experience that the opposition didn't put anything or wish to have anything put on the agenda, certainly when I was chairman. It might have been different when I wasn't, but certainly that was the case. Anyway, I haven't heard much dissent, so I will go straight to the recommendations. And I think it'd be safe to say that we could take them on block. And that is, one, to note the contents of the document, and obviously for officers to note about the areas and the maps that are correct in terms of going forward within the plan that Councillor Tutt has mentioned. Agree that this is used as evidence, as an evidence base in Swale Borough Council's and Kent County Council's decisions, especially in Kent County Council's highway strategies and plans, KCC and SBC planning applications, and their associated Section 106s to inform the SBC local plan review. And 3 is used by both Swale Borough Council and Kent County Council to assist in applying for funding for active sustainable travel initiatives. So what I will do is that I will call out and I will say that unless anybody wants to quickly disagree with me, that these are agreed on block.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Well, no, I'm going to I'm going to call everybody's name out and do it correctly. So Councillor Monique Bonney is absent. Councillor Simon Clark, are you for or against?
For.
Thank you. Councillor Alistair Gould.
He's absent, Chairman, because he declared an interest.
All right, so he abstained, right. Councillor Elliot Jays.
For.
Julian is abstaining. Councillor Paul Stevens is absent. Councillor Perkin. I think it's Perkin. Councillor Mike Baldock.
For. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Burt.
Against.
Councillor Booth is not with us. Councillor Mike Dendor.
Against.
Councillor Anthony Hook.
For.
Councillor Richard Lehman.
For.
Parish Councillor John Fassenfeld.
For, Chairman.
Sorry, what was that again?
For.
Thank you. Councillor Peter MacDonald.
For, subject to the necessary corrections.
And Parish Councillor Jeff Tutt. Against as incorrect. Okay. And I would be voting for with the corrections. So I make that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 4, 3 against, 2 abstain, and 3 absent. Kelly, do you agree with that?
Agree, Chairman.
Thank you. Right, I shall now hand back to your chairman, Councillor Saunders. Thank you.
Right, okay, thank you, Councillor Wright. So we're on to agenda item 7. And I think, is Jamie Watson going to introduce this, please? Alan Blackburn, is Jamie Watson introducing this?
I had this down as either Mr. Lee Carl or Mr. Jeffrey Nunn.
Okay, are either of those two here?
Mr. Chairman, I think it's possibly down to myself because the developer's consultant's office closed. So I think it may be to me to introduce it for you.
Okay, so Colin Finch, then, would you like to introduce this item for us, please?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, so as I say, usually this would be the developer's consultant that would be introducing this report, but unfortunately his office has closed now, so he's handed over to me. This report has been prepared in response to the traffic regulation order objections that were raised against the proposed signal junction and carriageway improvements at the junction where Halfway Road, Minster Road, the Crescent and the Queenborough Road meet. The improvements were proposed to improve the capacity of the junction as a result of the new residential development at Belgrave Road. The recent TRO application was in accordance with the works that were requested as part of the planning conditions for the Belgrave Road development. Indeed, they were also requested by Swale Borough Council for the Barton Hill Drive development through appeal as well. Through a combination of site observations, feedback received at the Meet the Developer event and the use of Google traffic conditions, it was noted that queuing extends along Queenborough Road towards these signals, notably in the PM peak hour when commuters return from work. Some users of Queenborough Road are utilising the residential roads of Holmesdale Avenue, Adelaide Gardens and Southdown Road in the Crescent to avoid queuing traffic for travel northwards towards Sheerness. Other drivers travelling to Minster follow a similar route through the use of Highfield Road, Admiral's Walk and Banner Way to avoid the signals entirely. There are few generating land uses to the south of the Crescent, and the volumes of traffic, particularly in the PM peak hour, lend evidence to the fact that drivers of Queenborough Road are using this approach as a means to avoid queuing before heading towards Sheerness. So essentially rat running through the residential streets to the south. The most effective method of improving capacity across the junction would be to remove entry from the Crescent entirely, with this approach serving exit traffic only. The performance of the junction was assessed without the ability to exit from the Crescent into the junction. The results of the assessment show that the junction will operate significantly better than that under the existing arrangements. Queue lengths are reduced under all scenarios and for all approaches. The County Council advertised its intention to implement the new junction arrangements from the 17th of December 21 to the 10th of January 22, and the order was advertised as shown in Appendix A of the report. The closing date for the consultation response is on the 10th of January, and the County Council has received written support from Kent Police and one other comment, which is anonymous. 18 responses of objections from members of the public have been received. A summary of those messages of support and objections are in Appendix B. So in conclusion, the scheme has been independently assessed by KCC Highway Transportation and Development and its intelligent traffic systems teams and consultants employed by Swale Borough Council. All have concluded that the scheme provides significant junction performance improvement. This is a deliverable scheme that has the support of the Parish Council. The scheme proposed should assist in improving congestion and pedestrian safety. It is requested that the proposed one-way system be agreed and the TRO made. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Colin. So I'm going to open this to members for questions and comments. I've got Councillor MacDonald. Do you want to come in?
Yes, I'm afraid mine's fairly extensive, actually, because I can't believe that such a scheme should have been produced. I have no record of, as you may or may not know, but Halfway is not in a parish. It used to be part of Minster, and certainly we would have commented on it, but we certainly haven't agreed the proposal. Clearly, whoever did the study has no knowledge of the difficulties of people travelling in a northbound direction along Holmeside and Southdown Road. Southdown, of course, has got the Undertakers on the corner. It's almost impossible if somebody goes down there to try and turn in towards Sheerness. The traffic queuing is not just in the peak. It's the A250, which is an A road, of course. That's the Queenborough Road and going into Halfway Road. It's an A road, and I can't see any significant improvement, quite frankly. And if somebody wants to have the politeness to talk to me, I'd be more than delighted to explain to them. But the development is right down at the bottom, much further west at Belgrave Road. And to my mind, the developers should, the Quango Homes England, who are the, I think the original developers with their associate company that's actually doing the work. You've got 100 and odd properties. They won't be going all round these streets, quite frankly. And the area at joining Belgrave Road and the A250, there's rather a nasty bend. It's not a big bend, but if people are travelling from Halfway going towards Queenborough, you can't see people at the junction of Belgrave Road, and that's where the investment ought to have been, quite frankly. I got nicked there about 50 years ago driving a lorry too fast, so I know the road very well. But it is a fairly blind corner there, and people are having great difficulty already in coming out of those roads. That's Holmeside and Southdown Road. So I think the whole scheme is frankly a nonsense. The time factor on the traffic lights, if you did stop the northbound traffic in the Crescent, it only lets 2 or 3 cars through, so there's not a significant improvement. What the county need to do, they won't want to because it's Sheppey, but they ought to be looking at possibly producing a roundabout at that junction, because it does cause an awful lot of congestion, and with all this building, there's not going to be any reduction. As somebody has actually indicated already, there were two letters of support. One of those was Kent Police. I'm glad the police were there, because most of us haven't seen a police person at all, and certainly haven't made any representations to us. The other one was an anonymous one, but there are 18 objectors from people who actually know the road. So I suggest you actually start talking to people. We certainly weren't put forward for any consultation, and the fact that there's 18 very strong objections from local residents, this needs to go back, quite frankly. I would throw it out straight away, because you say significant. Well, if you look up the Oxford Dictionary on significant, it means a great improvement. Well, if you're cutting the time limit on the Crescent, travelling towards Sheerness or towards Minster, is very, very, very limited. So, you know, a few minutes maybe at the most, compared with the other junctions, which is coming from Minster and from Queenborough or from Sheerness. So those junctions actually carry a huge amount of traffic. And certainly the traffic coming from the Sheerness direction, now that the A250 has been opened after about 5 weeks of waterboard work, the queues go right back towards Power Station Road, which is quite a long way away. So the whole thing needs to be looked at properly, quite frankly, and I don't think it says they used an intelligent system. Well, sorry, but my definition of intelligent is not what that electronic system comes up with. So I would like somebody to actually contact me, and I, you know, nicely, I will explain to them the problems. Thank you.
Sorry, thank you, Councillor MacDonald. What I'm going to do is bring in other people, and then I'll ask Colin Finch to come back. So, Councillor Beart, you were wanting to come in on this item.
Yep, thank you, Chairman. As the ward member for the borough and the county member, I've had discussions about this for as long as I can remember. And Mr. Finch will know that I'm not against, but I'm a sceptic. I wonder if he's making a list of things to come back on, if he could list out how many extra movements we think we're going to get from this change. I know that figure is available because it was mentioned at a planning meeting at Swale recently, but I don't think it was in the report, if I remember rightly. On the consultation responses, I think it would have been helpful if there was responses, i.e. if the officer responded to some of the comments that were made, because although some of them I recognise and accept, there are some in there that are based on misinformation or information that's assumed rather than actually known. And I know some of the reasons for objection actually aren't the case. Just to pick up on some of the stuff Councillor MacDonald said, that there is already plans for the realignment of Queenborough Road up at the junction of Belgrave Road. That is part of this development, but not part of the scheme that we're looking at this evening. That site also has nothing to do with Homes England. So I think we need to look at the scheme that we're looking at this evening. I'm not particularly happy with what we've got in front of us, but I also don't see what we're going to achieve going forward. What we desperately need, and like I say, I've been working on this for several years, is the rat run solution. And I think this goes some way towards it. I don't think it solves it, and it potentially makes some of the rat running worse. And I don't think that modelling particularly stands out. On the other general comment, and I've made it before at this JTB, as Councillor MacDonald has said, this isn't a parished area, despite the report saying that the parish council support it. I would also point out that in our report that comes to us this evening, it's referred to as the Crescent Minster, and in the documents on deposit, it's referred to as the Crescent Queenborough, neither of which are true. It's in the village of Halfway. Halfway is a recognised village that's unparished, and it's about time that the county and the borough started to recognise that rather than lumping it into the wrong connotations.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Beart. I've got Councillor Baldock, and then I'll come back to Mr. Finch. So, Councillor Baldock.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I fully agree with what Councillor MacDonald was saying. You do a consultation and you get a response like this. There's no glossing over it. Every member of the public virtually has opposed it, and with some good reasons. And I too get really annoyed, and I would like to know where how a developer can incorporate such a claim as the parish gives it support when, as we've heard, it isn't a parished area. What led to that inclusion? How dare they put a report that says that when there isn't a parish? I really dislike that kind of thing. I won't be supporting this recommendation, or whatever format we're supposed to be taking this. There's obviously no public support, or at least what we've seen is overwhelming public opposition. It seems a very dodgy report to me, and I won't be supporting it.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Baldock. So I'd like to move to a proposal fairly soon, but Mr. Finch,
I'll have to propose one if you like.
Yeah, well, if I could let the officer come back in first, and then I'll ask for a proposal. So, could you briefly respond to some of those issues that were raised, Colin Finch?
Yeah, certainly, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, so in terms of the figure that Councillor Burt was after, our traffic signals team have estimated that around about 300 additional vehicles will be going through that junction per hour than are currently. That's because there's a time saving on the cycle and a significant time saving on the intergreens for when those traffics change from red to green and vice versa. The consultation, obviously, I can't really comment on that. It's not the report wasn't written by myself, as I alluded to earlier. That was it's a report has to be made by the applicant, by the developer. Belgrave Road improvements are part of the mitigation, as I think Councillor Burt alluded to previously. What we're looking at really is a scheme that was requested by the county council and the borough council through planning committees. So these schemes were part of planning evidence, if you like, in terms of application evidence put forward to Swale Borough Council Planning Committee, both for the Belgrave Road planning application and via appeal. Swale Borough Council employed their own transport consultants, not KCC, to review the performance of the network, and their own consultants concluded that this junction improvement was required to improve the performance of the junction, to mitigate the developments coming forward, to improve its performance in the future years, and indeed now. So those were included additionally for the Barton Hill Drive application. The specific request, my understanding, is of the Borough Council, because it wasn't in the required mitigation previously. So in terms of the rat running, obviously a lot of the incentive for rat running is use of the crescent traffic light. So if you can avoid a queue on Queenborough Road and drive down and jump the queue, if you like, by use of the crescent, then that is an attractive route. So by removing that incentive, it's intended to dissuade people from rat running through those other areas. As was alluded to in the report, there is very little other land uses that would encourage that significant movement through the peak hour.
Okay, thank you. So from the discussion we've had, I mean, I don't get the sense that there's obvious support for the proposal at the moment, which is that the proposed one-way system be agreed and the TRO made. Is there anyone wanting to put forward that proposal, or do we need to look at an alternative?
I put a proposal in the IM, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Baldock. So the committee rejects approval. Right, so you basically, the committee rejects the doesn't give approval to proceed because of the public consultation and the opposition proposed. Okay, is there a seconder for that?
I'll second.
Councillor MacDonald.
Yeah, somebody else.
Okay, so I think if we move to a roll call vote for this then. Okay, I will just let you comment, Councillor Burt, because you did speak on this before. So then we'll move to the vote.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Just very briefly, I won't support the proposal just on the basis that instead of rejecting it, I think we should instruct officers to go away and have a look at some of the issues to come back with something more suitable, because speaking to some of my residents, they're not against it. And like you say, there's 18 objections, but in the grand scheme of things, there's a lot of residents who do support it, and there's also those who don't support it at the moment but think there's other options. So I'm not going to likely vote to reject it at this stage, but I would like to leave that on the table.
Okay, can I ask Councillor Baldock and Councillor MacDonald whether they'd be happy to slightly amend the motion to say that it, ask the officers or
I think
ask for the proposal to be revised?
I think it's for the developers to come back with that, not for the officers to have to take the lead.
Okay, well, would you be happy for us to go back and say to the developers, can they come back?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So,
Mr. Chairman, sorry, can I interrupt? Sorry.
Sorry, is that Colin Finch?
It is, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, briefly, if you can come in.
So yeah, it just that wouldn't be an option as far as I'm aware, Mr. Chairman. The mitigation was proposed and put forward and accepted by the planning committee as this scheme. It's not a case of going back and thinking you can perfectly legitimately reject the traffic regulation order, but that would be to reject the developer's mitigation for this, development mitigation for this junction. So the development would proceed, the mitigation would not. We don't have another opportunity to amend that mitigation. If there are another development coming forward in the area, of course we can look at it, look at other options and other avenues of funding. But in terms of this application and its requirement to provide this mitigation, if you reject the traffic regulation order, that would be lost. The mitigation would be lost, and there wouldn't be an opportunity to change that. Just to clarify that point, Mr. Chairman.
So can I get crystal clear on this then? That what you're saying is if we were to ask for the proposal to be amended, we would be looking at a fresh traffic order, or that the scheme would never be able to happen?
To clarify, this is the mitigation scheme that was put forward as part of the planning committee and part of the planning application. Apologies. So if you reject the traffic regulation order, then we would not be able to deliver the mitigation scheme that we had requested from the developer. That is correct. You couldn't change it.
Okay, so really the choice for us is to either accept or reject.
That is correct, Mr. Chairman. Okay,
so okay, at the moment we've got Councillor Baldock's proposal, which I'm planning to move forward with, but I noticed the Vice Chair is wanting to come in. Would you like to come in, Councillor Wright?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I would heed what the officer has said. It is a case of with the development that's going to happen, there will be extra traffic and the situation will only get worse. I feel that that if we reject this, things will only just get worse for residents, and it will be damn us all, because we'll then have to wait for another development before anything happens. So I certainly won't be supporting Councillor Baldock's proposal.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to just take Councillor Beart, and then I'm going to try and move us forward with a vote on a proposal. So, Councillor Beart.
Mr. Dendor's requested to speak twice, Chairman. I don't know if you can see that.
Okay, very briefly then, Councillor Dendor and then Councillor Beart.
Thank you, Chair. I will be very brief. It's a simple point of clarification from what Mr. Finch said. It went through planning committee, yes. The mitigation was part of the planning, yes. And I believe it went through appeal. I might be mistaken. Maybe Councillor Beart can, or say Mr. Beart can answer that. But if we reject this, then surely they go back to appeal. That's really my question. I mean, where does this take us if we reject it? It's part of the development. The development is half built. So I am really not clear, if we reject it, where it goes next. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Dendor. So I'm going to invite Councillor Beart in, and then I'll go back to Colin Finch, and then we will try and move forward with voting on a proposal. Councillor Beart.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Picking up on that point, and Mr. Finch might correct me, but Belgrave Road wasn't done on appeal. It was approved by the planning committee. It was Barton Hill Drive that was approved on appeal, and both of those schemes put forward this mitigation. Given the comments that have been made by the highways officer, given that this is a condition on both of those planning applications, and considering I oppose both of those applications, and considering that the junction is already over capacity, I feel no choice but to vote for the original recommendation. It's going to have to be approved.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Burt. So I think we've now got a proposal to put forward the original recommendation. Are you proposing that, Councillor Burt, as a local?
So you've got a recommendation on the table.
We'll have to turn that down first.
Yes, we'll have to deal with the one on the table first, but I am happy to propose that.
Fine. Okay. Well, we'll bear that in mind. Okay. Yes, Councillor Baldock. We clearly we can take your proposal first. So basically, the proposal that you're putting forward is that we reject the proposal for a one-way system and for a TRO.
Yes, I think the public have spoken quite clearly, and they don't want it. And what's the point of consulting with them just to ignore them?
Fine. So, and Councillor MacDonald is seconding that?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So I think we need to go to a roll call vote on this, and then if need be, we'll have a further vote. So let me get my list. Councillor Clark, are you for Councillor Baldock's suggestion of rejection?
Against Councillor Baldock's proposal.
Councillor Gould.
I'm going to have to abstain because I'm afraid I missed most of the debate because I didn't get back in after the last item.
Okay, Councillor Jays. Councillor Jays. We'll come back. Me, I'm going to be against. Councillor Perkin.
For.
Councillor Baldock.
For.
Councillor Beart.
Against.
Councillor Booth. Oh, sorry, he's not on the call. Councillor Dendor.
Reluctantly, but against.
Councillor Hook.
Again, sorry, abstain.
Councillor Lehman.
For.
Councillor Wright.
Against.
Councillor Fassenfeld.
For.
Councillor MacDonald.
For.
And Councillor Tutt.
Councillor Tutt is for.
A 4. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. So I have 6 for and 5 against. Democratic Services, 2 abstentions.
Agree, Chairman.
Okay, so Councillor Baldock's motion is passed then.
Thank you.
Well done.
Okay, so that's that item. I'm noting it's now almost 20 to 8. We've got a few other items on the agenda, but I'm hoping, members, we can get through these fairly quickly. So if we move to agenda item 9, Alan Blackburn, are you introducing this one?
Thank you, Chairman. Nothing to add or amend the report. I'm hoping that if members did have any issues that they will have raised them with the appropriate officers that are named within the report. Thank you.
Okay, I think I've got a couple of people who'd like to come in. Councillor Clark.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. As I didn't get my written report until this afternoon, I've just been going through it carefully. On page 117, at the top, machining resurfacing, Officer Byron Lovell. at the bottom of that table, High Street Sittingbourne. I assume that's meant to be from Park Road to Central Avenue, not Park Avenue.
Okay, I'll if I take these comments and questions and then ask Alan Blackburn to come back in. So, Councillor Fassenfeld.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm talking about page 136, the last item on the page, which is SW/003453, Chestnut Street roundabout. And the comment is technical vetting underway. The parish has been very concerned about this roundabout for some time and have had discussions with KCC Highways back in October, particularly about the fourth arm of the roundabout, which is the new slip road onto the southern run of the A249. We were promised back in October that when a technical note was agreed with National Highways, we would be given a copy. And I notice now that technical vetting is still underway. I wonder what the position is, and could we have an assurance that we will see that technical note? But I also note that there is a planning application put forward by Barrett's for this roundabout, minus this slip road, that's currently on the Swale Borough Council planning portal. So I'm rather intrigued as to how the progress is. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Councillor Tutt, you've raised on page 117 just that that Bolton Hill is in Dunkirk. I presume that's a comment rather than a question. Then I've got Councillor Perkin with a question.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, just 2 points really. Just to welcome the work to do with reducing flood risk in Whitstable Road and Tanner Street, but also on page 137 there is a section about the Ladies Own Footbridge, and I was just wondering if Alan had some more information on what that work might look like. If that's a question for outside of the meeting, and then that's fine, but I wondered whether there was any kind of further discussion about what that looked like. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Perkin. I certainly raised that last comment outside the meeting with Mr. Blackburn. Councillor Burt, if you want to come in with your question, and then I'll go back to Alan Blackburn.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Very short one. Apologies, my report in front of me hasn't got page numbers, but it's page 4 on mine. Sorry, page 5. B2231 Sheppey Way, A2500 Lower Road to Old Ferry Road, not including bridge. Could we please have clarification on who is responsible for the surfacing on the bridge? Is it Network Rail or is it Highways? Because frankly, it's shocking at the moment.
Okay, thank you. So, Alan, would you like to come back on those various questions?
Okay, there were 2 on there, Chairman, that were obviously pointing out errors that were in the report, and I've made a note of those. Obviously, Park Road and the boundary of Bolton and Dunkirk. Mr. Fassenfeld's comment about Chestnut Street at Borden, I haven't got any information on that. I'm going to need to get the developments officer to contact, which I can do. And the last one was concerning the bridge, and it certainly has not gone unnoticed that we are going to finish up resurfacing the full length of that road, and at the moment not resurfacing the bridge, but to the best of my knowledge it's Network Rail that look after the bridge, and I think there's a number of technical queries that need to be resolved before that can be resurfaced, and they are actively trying to resolve that with Network Rail. That's all I can say at the moment.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Clark, quickly before we note this.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It is brief and it is being a little bit pedantic, but the one I raised just now from Park Road to Central Avenue, it says High Street. That should, I believe, read High Street and West Street, because part of that does come in West Street, between the bottom of Park Road and Station Street. From Station Street on, it then turns into the High Street. So that could be taken away. Thank you.
Noted. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Clark. So, members, can we note this report, please? Highways Work Programme.
Noted.
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 Thank you. Okay, so item 10 is the progress update report, which I'm pleased to see is a bit less long than it has been at previous meetings. But have people got any questions or comments in relation to the progress update report?
Noted.
Nothing. So are you happy to note that one?
Noted.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so the final item on the agenda is requests made by councillors and members of the Swale Joint Transportation Board. So you've got a brief summary of items here. Does anyone want to raise anything in relation to this agenda item?
Chairman.
Sorry,
Chairman.
Yes. Yeah, Councillor Wright, would you like to come in?
Obviously, quite a number of councillors wanted to discuss at this meeting, and I know it's been a long agenda, but the transport strategy that's been put forward at the local plan, it was, and certainly I raised it for the meeting before December, and we were promised it to discuss it this meeting, and obviously it's been delayed again. Obviously, just to forewarn, if it's at all possible, when I am chairman in the next civic year, that will obviously be something that we will be looking at. Thank you.
Okay, can I thanks for raising that, Councillor Wright, and it gives me an opportunity to respond. Councillor Bearts wrote to me in relation to this, and I did respond to him individually, and I think it's probably worth identifying why I turned this down as an agenda item. And it was in terms of the JTB terms of reference. So in 5.2 of the JTB terms of reference, it states that the board should be a forum for consultation between KCC and the District Council on policies, plans and strategies related to highways, road traffic and public transport. My view, and I took advice on this, was that the transport modelling evidence wasn't a plan, a policy or a strategy, and that because it had been developed in partnership already with KCC, there was no need for consultation with them on it. The terms of reference, the JTB, also say that the JTB will receive reports on highways and transportation needs within the district. But again, the report in question was an evidence base for the local plan, not a report on transport needs. So I think it is, as I say, it's not a policy, plan and strategy. It is a piece of evidence for the local plan. The other thing is that obviously Swale Borough Council has got a process in place for reviewing the transport modelling to start with. So I don't think it's time to start debate on this, but that was the reason I turned it down. And obviously, as the chair, I do have discretion in relation to that because it's important to plan the agenda. So I'm hoping people will at least be accept that I've made that statement and there were reasons for this. Clearly, we do have other meetings coming up, and other chairs might take other decisions. So I'm hoping you're happy that we can finish the meeting there rather than having a debate on this at this stage, because we have been going for over 2 hours. So my proposal would be to close the meeting.
I would like to come in on that, Chair, because it sounds quite a threatening thing from Councillor Wright, but he plans to overrule what you've said, and you're quite right. It's not within the remit of the JTB. It's been before the local plan panel. That is the correct process. We certainly won't be waiting for this body to make any decisions or any discussions if it's bounced onto the agenda. The local plan panel has to continue its work, and I think it's quite ominous that Councillor Wright has approached it in this way. That's a very unhelpful way of bringing collegiate working.
Okay, well, I don't want to start a debate
just
on this. I think we
to
need
respond to that. I'd like to respond to Councillor
Baldock. Sorry,
Councillor
Baldock and Councillor Wright.
this item was requested not for this meeting, but the meeting before, and it's been rejected both times, which is fair enough. But
observe the chair. The chair has asked you to be quiet, Mr. Wright.
Sorry, can we? Right, I'm going to close the meeting now because I don't think this would be a fruitful discussion. So thank you everyone for your attendance and participation, and I'm calling the meeting to a close at 19:51. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairman.